Welcome to my channel, Go Polly. I am a big fan of strange, dark, and mysterious, and also supernatural. So, when the opportunity to visit a real-life haunted house came up on a trip to Jamaica, I simply couldn't say no. Off I went to the Rose Hall Great House for a night tour of one of Jamaica's most famous houses. First off, the house and the grounds of Rose Hall are stunning and beautiful. The beauty of the house is in stark contrast to the ugly history that surrounds its building. Rose Hall was the mansion built by the owner of the plantation, John Palmer, who named the main house after his wife Rosa. It should be noted that the plantation era marks a dark time in Jamaican history, when plantation slaves were treated as less than human. When the original owners of Rose Hall passed away, the house and the plantation landed in the hands of a man named John Rose Palmer and his young wife Annie. Annie Palmer was born in Haiti. Her parents died of yellow fever, and she was raised by a woman who taught her witchcraft and voodoo. At the age of 18, Annie moved to Jamaica and married John Palmer, the owner of Rose Hall. Therefore, unfortunately for Palmer, his new wife was a powerful practitioner of dark magic. She also had a controlling and violent streak. Within a few months of the wedding, Annie began to tire of her husband. She started taking slaves as lovers. When John caught her at this, Annie had killed him by poisoning his coffee. Annie reportedly used voodoo curses to control her slaves and to keep them in fear. So it didn't take long for Annie Palmer to earn the title of the White Witch of Rose Hall. Annie ruled the plantation her way, which unfortunately for her slaves was cruelly. White Witch would use bear traps to catch slaves attempting to escape. As if this wasn't cruel enough, she would then throw the injured slaves in the dungeon below the house to die. Slaves who worked in the house and had access to the kitchen were required to whistle whenever they were around food, so that she would know they were not helping themselves to any of it. If any were caught not whistling, she would cut their heads off as punishment for the supposed theft of her food. Her cruelty was not reserved for adults either. Children were required to carry water to the main house in a heavy wooden bucket, and if they spilled one drop, they would be beaten. Annie married 2 more times, killing both husbands for their money. She killed her second and her third husband with the help of her slave lover, who would later become a reason of her downfall. Her reign of terror did not come to an end until she crossed another powerful magician, a slave named Taku. In one variant of the legend, Annie cursed Taku's intended son-in-law. In another, she cursed Taku's own child. All versions of the story agree that Taku ended Annie's life by using a combination of black magic and physical violence. The slaves took her body and buried it in a deep hole on the estate. They then burned all her possessions, for fear they might be tainted by her spirit. Then a voodoo ritual was carried out to ensure that her spirit could not escape its deep grave. The ritual was, however, performed incorrectly, freeing Annie's ghost to haunt Rose Hall. It is believed that Rose Hall escaped the fate of most of the other great houses during the slave rebellion because the slaves believed that burning the house down would release Annie's spirit from the property, freeing it to go wherever it chose. People claim to have witnessed Palmer's ghost riding her horse around the plantation. She is also sometimes seen on the balcony. Whether you believe that the ghost of this cruel woman, who died almost 2 centuries ago, roams the grounds of the former plantation, or you're more of a skeptic, Rose Hall is an amazingly restored house that is worth visiting for the glimpse into history it offers.